A couple other things after the topics. When you're planning this out, so you come up with a topic, you'll see that those topics in the examples were very broad. It was just like something that has to do with, how autism works, or something that has to do with how non-human animals experience the world, and how their brains work. So the next step after that, after you have a topic, is to figure out the purpose. And it doesn't have to be that big a leap, but the purpose kind of takes the context and what you think you know about your audience into consideration a little more. So in this example that they use in the book, let's say you were part of a book club, which is something that people do, where you read a book with a group of people, and then talk about it for fun. And you might know that all the other people in your book club, as are, many people in the world, are what it calls food enthusiasts. I think probably, most people are into food. They might like to cook. So safe assumption, but, and you have to do this presentation on something, and you go, okay, well, so I know that they like to cook. I'm not just going to do something on cooking overall, right? Let me pick something specific about cooking. And maybe the role of a particular ingredient, or the way that something gets used in a particular kind of cuisine. And then you fuse that together and you have the purpose statements, the idea that, okay, my goal here now is to do an informative speech to a small audience of food enthusiasts about the little known properties of salt. Maybe they're not so little known even, but it's a specific enough thing where even if somebody knows like one of the things that you say, your overall goal of kind of highlighting this thing that maybe often gets overlooked is specific enough that you'll be broadly informative to the people in the audience, and it will add something to something that that they already know a little bit about and like. And might be interested in. So this doesn't have to be a formal thing that you do in your outline necessarily, but it is good to think about it. It should be reflected kind of in the orientation of your topic overall, that there's a purpose specifically of like, I think, I want to inform people about a specific aspect of this thing, not just, all the facts I can gather about salt. Some examples that would be good to look at. This is one of mine. It's this TED Talk that is about sort of what the internet really is in a kind of physical, like hardware sense. And again, there'll be some things that you probably already know about this, but it's overall presented in a way that's meant to illuminate something that is kind of, maybe easy to overlook, that we forget about, and, that's reflected in the language that we use to describe the internet as this kind of like abstract thing that's just out there. And so try to make a note of things like what the thesis of the speech is. Again, remember that, every speech has a thesis. It's essentially just what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with the speech. How is it organized? What are the sections? How are the main points supportive of that thesis? And what evidence specifically? So not just main points, but how is that evidence? How are those points actually like substantiated? Second speech, the car cookery one, we've already talked about this from the gun textbook. Page 288 is when it starts. Do the same thing, try to identify why he's doing a speech, an informative speech on car cookery, or using your car to cook food while you're driving. Yes, it is a thing. What's the thesis, main points, and so on. And then finally, just to keep in mind the KISS rule for when you're delivering and writing your speeches. Try to not use like overly technical language or jargon so even if it's like a complex topic, try to put it into language that would be accessible to ordinary people who've never really thought about it before. Always err on the side of less information rather than more, as again, I'm trying to do in these little videos. And again, just to reiterate sort of try not to patronize. Don't, underestimate your audience's knowledge. You can think of it in this class, your audience is me and other college students. Don't overestimate it either.